Salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Given notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded, the first thing on our agenda is a community update, school-sponsored events by our student representative, Mr. Keith Grubb.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler. Start off district-wide on October 18th, the Attleboro Special Education Parent Advisory Council, or ACEPAC, 2012 Basic Rights Workshop will be held at 7 p.m. at the Brennan Middle School Library. Here at Attleboro High School on October 17th, the parent conferences will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. On October 19th, the TOEFL testing, or test as English as a foreign language, will be held for seniors only, college-bound seniors only. On October 30th will be picture retakes. At the middle schools, at Brennan on October 16th, their flu clinic will be held during the day for students. At Coelho on October 24th will be their family festival, and that will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. At Wamsutta on October 17th, their PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. And October 22nd at Wamsutta, their school council meeting will be held. Finally, at the elementary schools, at Hill Roberts on October 16th, their PTO meeting will be held at 7 p.m. in the library. And on October 20th, the Harvest Hoopla will be held from 5 to 7 p.m. in the auditorium. At Hyman Fine on October 24th, the PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the library, and they will be having school council elections at that meeting. And on October 30th, the first school council meeting will be held at 4 p.m. At Studley on October 16th will be Picture Day. And on October 27th at Studley will be the Pumpkin Glow, and that will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. At Thatcher and ELC on October 17th, the walking school bus program begins in the morning. And also on October 17th, the math parent support night will be held from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. And finally, at Thatcher on October 23rd, the multicultural potluck supper will be held from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Lastly, at Willett on October 19th, the Family Harvest Fest will be held from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And November 8th will be their PTO meeting at 7 p.m. in the library.
Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have the approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2012.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. You have approval of minutes from October 1st, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. This is time for open forum. Open forum. This is a time when members of the public may address the school committee. Open forum is not a time for committee members to engage in dialogue with members of the public. Guidelines for open forum are available to you up at the podium. Please know that we are interested in what you have to say, but we cannot respond without background information on your issue. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. Nobody wishes to speak in an open forum. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have a motion to vote to accept the donation of an Epson EX3210 multimedia projector with an estimated value of $449.99 to Hyman Fine Elementary School from donorschoose.org.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have a motion to vote to accept the donation of notebook paper, composition books, and a one-subject notebooks with an estimated value of $100 from Fred Wyatt, president of St. Vincent DePaul in Attleboro for Coelho Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have a motion to vote to accept the donation of a Dell Dimensions 4800 computer valued at $125 for Samrat and Maria Amberwatic, I hope I got that correct, for use at the Hill Roberts Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have a motion to vote to declare 76 soft-color Scott Foresman everyday reading books and 2 Scott Foresman teacher edition books, copyright 1998, as surplus, as these books are antique and no longer used at the Brennan Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have a motion to vote to declare 28 Open Court Series textbooks, copyright 1979, and 1 Open Wonderful World Encyclopedia set, copyright 1963, as the books are antique and are no longer used at the Thatcher Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Under new business, we have the Attleboro High School Career and Technical Education Program. Presentation by Sue Edmonds, the director, and Bill Runey, the principal of Attleboro High School. Welcome.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to give the big picture issues. We're delighted that we have students here tonight, we have teachers, and at the request of the committee regarding what the Career Technical Education Program is about, I would like to just frame the issue that we are a large comprehensive high school. That is not the norm in Massachusetts, and what CTE allows us to do is offer an array of opportunities along with our academic opportunities. I have stressed before, but as I think it bears repeating, that there is no difference in opportunity between the CTE students and the non-CTE students. There is no difference in achievement level when we look at the differences between the students in CTE and those who are not. And there is no difference in the rigor of what we need to demonstrate for our students to be able to learn. And if you've ever looked at a textbook in the electrical engineering or in some of the programs in culinary, the amount of OSHA standards they have to learn, you will see that the literacy and math standards that we are promoting through K through 9 become very important as we move into both CTE and non-CTE programs. Tonight, Mr. Runey is going to start off. Ms. Edmonds is also going to take us through. We are delighted to have some students here and teachers. And then Mr. Sawyer will close with a discussion on the fiscal reimbursement process. So, Mr. Runey.
Thank you, Dr. Durkin, and I'd like to thank the committee for this opportunity to celebrate something that is not only an integral part of the program of studies that we have at Attleboro High School, but it is something that in my short tenure I've had a strong appreciation for in a short period of time. I also hope that our presentation tonight for our audience at home will help people realize that this is no longer a program where we have shop class or where we have home economics. I mean, these are real courses that are taught in a lab type setting with a very rich curriculum. And as Dr. Durkin mentioned, the CTE program at Attleboro High School provides 2 different types of opportunities. For students who come to us that already have a passion for something that is offered within the CTE program at Attleboro, that passion can be fostered and it can be manifested. But then again, much like in a college setting, a lot of students go to college and they're not 100% sure what it is that they want to do with the rest of their lives. The CTE program at Attleboro High School allows for passions to be found and then in turn also to be fostered and manifested. I think another important aspect of the high school education in general is that we are charged with preparing these young people for being contributing members in the community. And hopefully we get a lot of them to come back and serve the Attleboro community. But along those lines, the state of Massachusetts has a category known as positive placement. And I've listed here on our presentation that Attleboro High School in the CTE program has a 95% rate of positive placement. And just to be able to put that in perspective for you, what they do is they take the graduates that come through our CTE program or any CTE program in Massachusetts, and they assess where they are 1 year after high school graduation. So this 95% would be based on the class of 2011. Positive placement is defined as either being in the workforce being in the military or being in some post-secondary institution or post-secondary program. So you essentially have to have something going for you. You have to have a plan after that first year, after having graduated from high school. The state figure to be able to maintain your programs and to be able to maintain your funding is 78%. And at Attleboro High School, we, with the class of 2011, had at least a 95% rate of positive placement. That shows you, and it also shows our viewing audience, that the programs here at Attleboro High School, again, as I said earlier, are curriculum-based, and they are very rich, and that they are accomplishing quite a bit. Something else that was news to me, but I think is a very wonderful aspect of being enrolled in a CTE program, especially in today's economy, is that much like advanced placement students take credits from high school to college, there are some college programs that will accept CTE credit at Attleboro High School as college credit. Right now, Bristol Community College, also Central Maine Community College, and also Ben Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston. So if a student, again, either has a passion that is manifested here or determines a passion and that is manifested here, if they want to continue with a post-secondary placement such as Bristol Community College, Ben Franklin Institute of Technology, which is not far away in Boston, or even at Central Maine, they will go in ahead of the game in terms of having taken some credits. Mrs. Edmonds is going to talk now about some of the offerings.
We have a number of offerings that the students are able to explore at Attleboro High School, and as Mr. Runey said, when the students do complete our programs, 122 of the 125 students in the graduating class of 2011 are currently in positive placement. That's a pretty significant number in this economy, with students being either in post-secondary placement, either in vocational schools such as New England Tech, or gone on to 2- and 4-year colleges. It's important for us to maintain that high level of positive placement to reassure the state that we are doing the work that needs to be done here. And that has been consistent for the past 8 or 9 years that we have surpassed the state requirement for that. Mr. Runey also mentioned the articulations that we have. We have 5 different programs who all have articulated credit with Bristol Community College, which means when a student leaves any one of our programs, and I'll use Early Ed because I can speak to that one most clearly, students going into Bristol Community College do not have to take ED 11 and ED 13, Intro to Early Childhood Education, and Health, and I think it's Health and Nutrition is the other entry-level course. They don't have to take them because they have fulfilled all the requirements for those courses here as high school students at Attleboro High School, which means that they have 6 credits that they can use somewhere else, find an elective that they want to explore, or go deeper into their course of study. We have 3 programs with articulated agreement at Central Maine Community College, and we have our first one with Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston, and that is our engineering program. So we're very excited about keeping those current and maintaining them. Those have to be renewed every 2 years. The colleges look at our curricula, they look at their own, they find where the curricula meet, and that's when they say this is a course that the student doesn't have to take, so they can enter college with some advanced credits. Program creation and expansion is an important part of my responsibilities as well, and that's done with the input of our advisory committees. Under the Perkins grant, we are required to have a general advisory committee. That's a group of people from industry, students and parents and graduates who come back to advise us as to what we need to be doing. Each one of the 10 programs has their own advisory board. So there are people who are experts in the field of engineering or culinary or carpentry, who advise the teachers in those programs. You should have all received your invitation to our advisory dinner on October 26th and our 5th. I hope you're all able to come to it. It's a very worthwhile evening. You get to see some of the people in Attleboro and the surrounding communities who give of their time to help us maintain viable programs so that our kids are coming out of the school with the skills that employers are looking for. That's why we have the advisory committee. We also look at the Department of Labor job outlook to decide where in the next 5 or 10 years are we going to be able to find jobs for our students. What we have been doing over the past couple of years, we have expanded existing CTE programs. In 2010, we were able to add another instructor to medical assisting. Even with 2 instructors now medical assisting and accepting 40 students, we still have a waiting list of about 25 or 30 students for that program. In 2012 and 13, we expanded the automotive program to a .7, so we now have 1.7 teachers in that program, hoping to expand that to a full 2 teachers next year. And you may recall that last year in the budget we had proposed the startup of the plumbing program, and we'd really like to see that to be able to get started again, because we do have a number of students leaving the district to enroll in plumbing programs in other schools. So that's where we are. I'm glad you're enjoying the pictures of our students. It's a very exciting department to work in, and lots of very exciting things. And Danelle Simpson is with us tonight. She is a student in culinary, and last year Danelle competed at the district and the state level at Skills USA. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about what it means to be in the CTE program and what it has done for her.
Well, the CTE program for any kids improves you not only as a person, but as an employer, or when you go to college, it makes you a more well-rounded student. It forces you to work hard and to work in stressful situations with people you probably wouldn't have worked with before. And it just gives you confidence and overwhelming sense of belongingness. And Skills USA is a national organization that inspires hard work and success amongst young people. So what we did at Skills USA is each program has its own competition. So at districts we go take a test, and if you don't pass, or if you're not the top 3 out of your category, then you can still go to states. I went for public speaking. I placed 9th out of the whole state of Massachusetts in the culinary course, so I didn't get to go to districts as a culinary professional, but Nicole Marston and Allie Jensen did place last year, so they went and competed as culinary competitors. But I went as a state, not a state officer. I went as a public speaker, so I had to give a speech in front of a panel of adults, and it was about what skills and motivation mean to me. And so, being around the Skills USA kids gives you a sense of I don't know, hard work, because you're around them and you see that you're all striving towards the same goal. You all want the same thing, so it just kind of pushes you that little bit harder. And it just, I don't know, if you ask anybody that's in Skills USA, they'll tell you what an amazing program it is. I can't really describe it. You just have to see it for yourself. But we're going this year to the State Leadership Conference. There's me and about 6 other kids that are going. It's going to be at the Best Western Hotel, and it's going to be this November. And so what it does is, it's not necessarily a competition. There is a competition aspect to it, but not everybody competes. There's also a volunteer aspect to it. So what we'll do is we'll go to the local YMCA and paint, and we'll raise money for the local food bank, and just get together. And Skills USA isn't about being number 1. It's about being a good person and a well-rounded worker. So we're all about success, respect, motivation, skills, just being the best that you can be as a working professional. And so we hope that everybody that joins the CTE program will be in Skills. And we actually we had like some kind of gathering where we went to each class and we would talk to them about joining. And many kids did, but not as many as we'd hoped. So we're hoping that next year more people will join, because it's just a good opportunity for everyone. And many technical schools and colleges will actually give you credit for being in skills. They'll just, like, for example, Johnson & Wales will just give you like $1,000 off just for being in it, just for being a part of skills, because it's such a good opportunity. They know that if you're going to come out of that program, you're going to be a hard worker, you're going to have a passion for your career, you're going to know what you're doing, and you're going to want to be the best that you can be. So, thank you.
I can see why you were so in the public speaking range. Good practice and good work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're proud of you.
Okay, so the last thing we wanted to talk about is the financial stream. Chapter 70 is how the rest of the school is governed, and Chapter 74 is a special set of laws that govern our CTE programs. In fact, sometimes at the table I know we've said in the past, oh, Chapter 74 programs, and that's because there are a set of regulations that we have to meet to be qualified and approved as Chapter 74 programs. And with that Chapter 74 designation comes a different funding stream. Students in the Chapter 70 students last year were funded at about $8,000 per student, whereas our Chapter 74 students, those are students who are enrolled in our Chapter 74 programs, they were funded at about $12,000 per student. So the state gives us roughly, and it changes from year to year, about $4,000 more per Chapter 74 student over Chapter 70 students. So Chapter 74 programs bring in an additional stream of money that helps do a lot of the things that we do at Attleboro High School. It's a big part of the benefit of being a comprehensive high school. And another note is the flip side of that is that when students go to other vocational high schools to be enrolled in programs that we don't offer, we have to pay their tuition, and that runs for like a school like Tri-County, what would we say, like $15,000?
I think it's $14,100 this year. It
Right,
varies
so-
every year.
So, but, so rather than get the additional $4,000 for that student, we're actually paying $14,000 for those students. So there's a lot at stake financially in our Chapter 74 programs, and that's something that we need to be sensitive to as we plan for the future.
First of all, can we just tell the public how many other high schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts offer a CTE program?
Well, the number of schools that offer any kind of CT program of any kind is almost 40, right, Sue?
It's approximately 40. Some of those schools only offer one, or two, or three.
And we offer
There are
how many?
We offer 10. And there's 20 schools that offer 10 or more. And those are comprehensive high schools. We're not counting the regional vocational technical schools.
My point is, we're a very small percentage
Yes, we
of the Commonwealth that offers a program like this. Obviously, the passion that's shown is well worth our effort. And I want to open it up to the committee. I know they have questions on this. Brenda?
Ms. Edmonds, for the freshman exploratory, I know that they, you didn't touch on that, but I know when they go around, because they're exploring each of the areas, they now have a counseling session or a 6 or 8 week period regarding counseling with their counselor. Is there, what is
We
that about?
expanded exploratory this year, and we now call it exploratory for all, because we really feel that if we are a comprehensive high school, we need to offer that opportunity for all students to explore and see what they like, but almost as important to see what they don't like. And so in order to expand the program and offer it to more students, we did, Ms. York and the guidance counselors wrote a curricula for them to follow. That is the guidance curriculum, and it's offered every 8 days to a different group of students. Now, if a student starts off in the service cluster, they will go through 8-day cycles of 7 classes, and one of them will be their guidance with their own guidance counselors assigned by their house. At the end of trimester 1, the students will be reassigned to another cluster of their choosing. If they didn't get it the first time, say if they chose the service cluster and they got it the first time, then it will be a random selection of whether they get either of the other 2 clusters the second trimester. If they didn't get their first choice, then they will definitely get their first choice second trimester.
I was just, when I heard about that, I was just kind of amazed actually, because
I don't recall that ever being brought up at, they were gonna add that into the exploratory, like you said, they got their curricula or their curriculum and what. So I just don't recall that as a school committee member being brought forward that they were gonna add that into the curriculum for CTE.
When we presented a couple times last year, we talked about how one of the benefits that we were planning for this year's schedule is that we would be able to provide exploratory to virtually all students, and that in doing so, we would be able to then bring the freshman guidance curriculum into the exploratory to ensure that all students had access to that guidance curriculum. We've always had a freshman guidance curriculum, but I think it's understandable that with each year, things get more and more serious for students, and so, you know, seniors probably get the most attention from the guidance counselors, and then as you back it down, it becomes a little bit less, not a priority, but a little bit less of a pressing matter. So sometimes freshmen are kind of the afterthought when it comes to getting to their guidance needs. Now, we certainly do our best to service all students, but, you know, that was sort of the lowest priority. And we thought that by putting the guidance curriculum right into the exploratory program, we would ensure that all freshmen get a full guidance experience, because in a lot of years, the freshman year is the most important one, because that's where you get to set a plan for your 4 years and really kind of set out a course for how you're going to accomplish your high school goals. Too often, you know, students in their junior year start to decide what they want to do, and it turns out that a lot of things that they could have done if they've been planning all along are no longer available to them. So we were trying to force the issue with, you know, freshmen having a guidance experience right in their
That would
freshman
be a
year.
6-week, is that kind of like a 6-week rotation? How
It's
they
one of
do
the
it?
rotations.
And what
yeah.
do they basically cover in that 6-week rotation about?
Well, I'm sure some of it is career exploration.
Actually, the guidance portion of it for a particular freshman is 8 days. And they talk about research, study skills, organization. They talk about social skills. You know, one of the most difficult things for a freshman is walking into the cafeteria on the first day and standing there with your lunch and not knowing, you know, where to sit, because the students that you came to high school with from your various middle schools could be interspersed, you know, throughout the entire building. So there's a lot of just being able to get adjusted to high school. But then they do also have aspects of that guidance curriculum where they start talking about, as Mr. Sawyer said, starting to look at plans for courses that they want to start to take, you know, over their 4-year career.
But it's only 8 days, so it's not in the 6-week, because don't they have like 6-week, like whether it's carpentry and they switch?
No, everyone is 8 days.
Everyone is 8 days,
Yep.
okay. All right, I didn't recall that coming up to the full committee, so I was just wondering if that was something new that they.
Yeah, no, that was in one or two of the presentations we had
Okay.
done last year.
Good. Thank you.
Dave?
Sure. Ms. Edmonds, my question's with regard to the advisory councils that you had discussed. Can you just talk a little bit about sort of what the role of the advisory council or committee?
Committee.
Advisory committee. Okay,
Advisory
so that's a
committee.
good first step in knowing what it's called. The advisory committees, could you talk a little bit about the role they play in each discipline, and then also the role in terms of the program generally?
Sure.
How it's comprised and how you find the individuals to serve on them, and then what you ask them to do.
Under the Perkins regulation, we have very specific guidelines. We need to have parents, students, community representatives, and representatives from industry. And the role of the advisory committee is to guide us, because if we're 2, 3, 4, 5 years out from working in industry ourselves, things have changed. We need to know what it is employers are looking for, what it is that union representatives or experts in the field are saying. These are the skills, the hard skills and the soft skills that students need to come out of Attleboro High School with in order to be able to get a job in whatever one of the disciplines that they're in. And that basically is their primary goal. One of the things that they will be doing in October is we have drafts from all of the CTE Chapter 74 frameworks were rewritten this summer, and they're in draft form. Before they can be made official, every school's advisory councils or advisory boards need to sit and review the changes and fill out a rubric and rate it, whether they feel that it's appropriate or not. And then all of those rubrics will get sent back to the Department of Ed after our meeting, and that's where the Department of Education will make the decision whether or not these are the frameworks that they want to approve. So they have a very important job. Their role is very important to us, and we look to them many times during the year. We meet officially twice a year, but we look to them many times during the year for advice.
If I may, just do a commercial, and we are consistently looking for community members in those areas. When you come to the dinner next week, you'll see large groups of people, your neighbors and community members, who give a lot of their time to ensure that our programs are high standards and are competitive. So for those of you who may be watching at home and would like to know more information, Ms. Edmonds, and I know, does a great commercial on that, but we're still seeking others. We have many upstanding members of this community who give their time to make sure those programs are the high standard they should be. But we always are looking for more, and so that we can be competitive and do it. So I say to community members, if they have any questions at all, please contact Mr. Runey and Ms. Edmonds, and we'd love to have them join us in those areas.
I would just add to the superintendent's comments that I think when we think about these advisory committees and the important role that they play, it sort of makes sense that the fields of education that are related so closely to the working environment, like those are really the area that we need to sort of keep in touch with the real world to make sure that the programs develop the way they need to. And I know that you've said before that there are student representatives to each committee that come from the disciplines. And do we make efforts to sort of hold on to those students as they become alumni, so that way we can sort of have individuals involved in the program who have very fresh perspectives in terms of entering the workforce? Is that a fair?
We do. We try to bring the students on usually as juniors, so that we have them for 2 years on our committee. We invite the parents to participate with them as well, but that's not a requirement. Sometimes we have parents, and sometimes we have students, and sometimes we have a combination of both. And we do encourage our students to stay with us. Many of them go off military or go off to school, but there's always a way for them to stay connected with us, and many students do stay connected with us through the advisory committees. They appreciate what they have received here as far as training and education, and they oftentimes will come back with a very fresh perspective. You know, this is what I really should have known. I wish I had known this when I went off to college or off to post-secondary placement, and that helps our teachers refine the curriculum that they're presenting to the students.
And I know that the school district website will be relaunching in the near future, and I don't know if there is a component on the Attleboro High School section of the website that is, I know that there's something devoted specifically to the career and technical
I
program.
believe it's in the department tab.
Right, and I think that this is sort of a comment. I think to whatever degree we can promote the program as one of the things that makes Attleboro a unique place to go to school and go to high school in particular, I think it's important. I know I've asked this question to you at this table before in other instances. I don't understand how communities think that they're going to offer a high-quality high school education without having these types of programs. I think, you know, that it's an open-ended question. I'm not asking anyone to answer it now, but it seems to me like that we have it's a very unique advantage that the school system has, so I hope we continue to promote it as best that we can. Ms. Simpson, good luck to you at the skills tournament.
Thank you.
I'm sure that you don't need that, but and when is the Apprentice Cafe open? Because it's open to the public, correct?
Yeah.
And what are the hours?
It's open like C block and D block.
C block.
C through E block. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Which is 11.
So that's
So-
Those watching at home that may not be familiar
I'm
with the C, D, and E block, that would be approximately
I think it's 11:40 to 1:50.
11:40.
No, 11:40 to about 12:30.
Oh.
And the
Okay.
D block. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I've stopped by a couple times for lunch, and it's excellent. So thank you very much.
It's
No
actually
problem.
11 to 12:45 with the new schedule.
There you go.
Okay. 11 to 12:45 Wednesdays to Fridays. If you're looking for a good place to get lunch in Attleboro, you should come to the Apprentice Cafe.
And we do
And
catering
holiday
and
pies.
holiday pies.
Catering and holiday parties
Yeah,
as well.
those are also there. And we have a couple of our other students with us here tonight. May I introduce them?
Please.
Okay. Allie Jensen and Brant Greenleaf.
Hi.
And, I'm sorry, Ryan Henry from Medical Assisting. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bill's got a question.
Actually, it's more of a comment. As a parent of a graduate of your the CTE program. I had an opportunity to see quite a bit of it over the last 4 years, and just hitting on your comment about the Skills USA, I've seen some of the projects that are done. They're extremely impressive. They really, really are. They're not simple projects, and people should not think that at all. They're very comprehensive projects that they're doing, and they're given a short period of time to do them. I also had an opportunity to do some evaluations of the senior portfolio presentations. These are 3-ring binders, folks. I mean, this is a huge pile of information. It was, again, a very impressive situation to watch, because it's a portfolio in this particular case that got put together over years. So it is an accumulation of years worth of work. And then just my last comment, I didn't realize until last year that there's actually an honor society to the CTE program, which is, again, I think shows the elevation of the education, if anyone has any question left in their mind. And I think that's a very important thing for people to remember. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We wish all our CTE luck in the future with all their competitions, and hopefully state and national. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the new business is the District 2012-2013 goals by Superintendent Durkin and our Assistant Superintendent Dave Sawyer.
Yes, and I would like to ask our Data Accountability Coordinator to please also come up to the table, and that is Michelle Roy, who has been before you before. She will be available to answer any questions about the data as a refresher course with that. I just want to set the context, I'd like to set the context rather, that the response to new educator evaluations did not come about because somebody woke up and said, oh, let's change the way we evaluate teachers. It came as a response to the national framework of Race to the Top. And in applying for Race to the Top funding, of which Massachusetts has garnered, part of it was relooking and reviewing how teachers are evaluated, as well as how administrators and superintendents are. The Race to the Top, or RTT premise, is underlies two very important beliefs: that the single most important factor in student progress and student achievement is the classroom teacher in front of the room, and the single most important factor in improving school achievement is the principal. So the rubrics and the material that Mr. Sawyer is going to go through encompasses all educators in Massachusetts, not just some, all. Teachers, administrators, and superintendents. And he is going to give some context and background, and I will briefly go over the goals. Yes. Quicker.
Thank you.
Oops.
All right, so there's an idea behind what the state's trying to do here, and that is that if we can align the various levels of the system together, so that our district goals and our school goals and our team goals and our teacher goals are all aligned, right? So that what we're trying to do at a district level informs what the schools are trying to do, which informs what the teams are trying to do, which then informs the teachers individually what they're trying to do. Then all of our efforts work together and combined to create a powerful force, much more so than we do if they're all going in different directions. So the idea here is to bring our evaluation system into line, to help us to bring all of these efforts together to create a stronger force. To accomplish this, we need to have a cycle for the planning, executing, and evaluating of educator goals. So whether we're talking about educator evaluation, whether we're talking about administrator evaluation, or if we're talking about superintendent goals, in all cases they all follow the same cycle at every phase. So the first step is a self-assessment. The educator takes a look at both the data that's available and reflects on their own practice, and from that, create a self-assessment where they identify strengths and areas of focus, things that they're concerned about that they want to get better at. From that analysis, where educators, and again, this is everybody in the district, now is going to do some goal setting, right? We set goals. How are we going to address the areas of concern that are raised through the self-assessment? And then from those goals, we create a plan to actually achieve those goals, and that's called the educator plan. So we analyze, we set the goals, then we implement the plan. We do what we set out to do in the plan. We follow the plan. We follow the course of actions that we've set forth in this plan. Along the way, there's a check-in to monitor progress. Are we doing what we said we were doing? Do we need to make some adjustments? Are the things that we said we were going to do being followed through on? And then at the end, we look at, all right, how did we do? Did we do everything we said we're going to do? What were the results? Did it have the impact we were hoping it did? Based on the results, did we get what we wanted out of this? And therefore, what should our new goals be? So then you start the process all over again, right? Now looking at these results, these results become the basis for the next self-assessment, and from that self-assessment come the next set of goals, and on the cycle goes on and on. And again, teachers are doing this, administrators are doing this, our superintendent's doing this. Everyone in the district is being evaluated against 4 standards. For teachers, the standards are curriculum planning and assessment as standard 1. Standard 2 is teaching all students. Standard 3 is family and community engagement, and standard 4 is professional culture. Those are the 4 educator standards. Now, those are aligned with the administrator standards. Although the names are a little bit different, the things that you would see under those standards are very strongly aligned. So for administrators, standard 1 is instructional leadership. Standard 2 is management and operations. Standard 3 is family and community engagement, and standard 4 is professional culture. So these 4 standards are how all educators are being evaluated, and this is what their self-assessment is a reflection on how their performance measures against those standards, and their plans are an attempt to improve their performance against those standards, and then in the end they are assessed against those standards. Those standards are very big general terms, and so to clarify what we mean by those things, the state has provided rubrics, and the rubrics get very detailed into what those things really mean. Beneath the layer of the standard, each standard is broken up into indicators, and the indicators break that standard down into smaller, more specific components of what that standard means. Within the indicators are elements, which are even more broken down, even more specific as to what exactly we're talking about. When we talk about what does that standard look like. And then in the rubrics, there are the last level of details, the descriptors, where there's literally a description of what that practice listed in that element looks like for a successful implementation. So when a person really does that, really meets that standard, what does that look like? And it's a rubric, so there are performance levels. So what does it look like when you're proficient at this? What does it look like when you're exemplary at this? What does it look like when you need improvement? And what does it look like when your performance is unsatisfactory? And that way we can very specifically assess performance against these standards. So this model, I think, again, back to that first slide, the state is trying to line this all up so that we're all pulling in the same direction, we're all being assessed the same way, we're all working towards the same ends, and in doing so, all our work will collectively contribute to the improvement of the district.
What I'm going to share now is every administrator and teacher, really every educator, must pose a student learning growth achievement goal, as well as a professional practice goal, and then what I'm calling district goals, but could be other type goals. Generally, they are one in nature for each, and in district goals, about 2. And the reason for that is to look at the overarching picture of what are the big things that need to be accomplished. I want to be clear, by no means this is not the only work we do. If you look at the rubrics, they are quite comprehensive, and those 4 standards that Mr. Sawyer spoke about encompass a great deal. However, for the student learning growth achievement goal, we felt that the most important piece was to look at where are our state targets. They're very standardized, and as you can see, our 2012, what we call our CPI, is basically for an important part of looking at the aggregate and high needs in our 3 subject areas, which are ELA, English Language Arts, math, as well as science. So we have those targets set by the state, and as you well know, we need to reach a specific amount by 2016 to 2017. This allows us to stay on track and to ensure and fulfill not only the superintendent's obligation to the community, but overarching to make sure those standards are met. You may ask, well, look at we're ahead in the science aggregate, but again, remember, we're looking at something all the way to 2017, and we hope to remain ahead and be able to meet those targets, because at the end of the day, in 2016-17, we have a specific target we must meet. So what the state has done is basically divided that up into 4 different areas. Am I right, Ms. Roy?
Superintendent Durkin, you said 2016, is it 13 a target?
That's for next year.
Oh,
But
okay.
ultimately,
Oh.
we have our targets
Okay.
set for 2016, 2017, and we
Okay.
have those available. But these
Okay.
are annual goals,
Okay.
okay? The second most important piece is, of course, growth. You've heard me speak often that every child must make progress every day in every classroom, and that regardless of what the targets are, individually, students must be able to demonstrate significant growth for having been part of the correct classroom, the correct school, and obviously in the district. The state, if you remember, we had from 40 to 60 was the range of typical growth. We strive for higher than that, and many of our schools went higher than that. However, the state is now saying the median growth, which means in the middle, must be 50. So that is our goal to meet. As you noticed, both goals state meet or exceed. We're not going to just be satisfied with meeting that. And as you know, the high needs group, which comprises our English language learners, our low-income students, and our special education students, specifically in that high needs group, we have discussed the important specific action steps that must take place for our students with disabilities. And we are forming a work group that is comprised of pretty much K through 12 levels. And we're in the process of designing the charge. Ms. McCarthy and I are doing that, working with those administrators, and we'll be reporting back to you with the specific needs of that work group. It is focused on general areas of what is the best level of service delivery, how do we ensure access to every student for the curriculum, and how do we make sure our students stay on track to not only fill the gaps for them, but how do they accelerate their learning. So that will be something you'll hear often about, that special education work group and what those action steps will look like. In the professional practice goal, I felt for this year it was extremely important for me to help build the capacity of every administrator I'm privileged to supervise and lead, as well as to ensure sustainability of that learning. And what I plan to do is, as you know, there are 11 out of 19 new members of the leadership team. It is a new team, and each one of them brings a range of experience and background that is both rich and varied. However, my goal is to ensure that Attleboro's expectations of excellence become part of their practice and the way they lead their staffs. So my professional practice goal is, as written there, spending a considerable part of my work week, and 25 to 50% of my work week, to be able to meet with them, not only in meetings, coach with them, coach them in side-by-side in their schools, give them support as well as feedback, what we call growth-producing feedback on the way they are leading their schools in meetings with individual teachers, as well as reviewing their own practice with their teachers. When we talk about growth-producing feedback, I just want to spend 2 seconds on that. That is more than saying you've done a good job. What that is describing what you have done and what effect it has had on the children or the teachers you serve. So instead of saying good job, I can sit at a meeting and say to the principal, you were very well prepared for that meeting. You not only understood what that teacher was facing, but you provided that teacher with specific instances of where she was strong, where she was not strong, and how you expect her to change in the future to be able to improve. That's specific growth-producing feedback. You can only do that kind of feedback if you understand the work of principals and principals understand the work of their teachers. And that's the role that we have. And when we say timely, that doesn't mean I meet with the principal on Tuesday and I don't get back to them to feedback until the following Wednesday. A lot of things happen in between. It means within a 24 to 48 hour period, we're having a discussion, we're having an email, we're talking about that. All of these goals need to have evidence and data, and that's what the principals are expecting from their teachers. What are you working on? And when Mr. Sawyer talked about the formative summary, that means probably in February, I'll work with Mr. Tyler on having on the agenda a summary of what evidence I have on having the action steps we've taken thus far. And ask about mid-course corrections, because goal setting has been a part of Attleboro Public Schools for a long time. But the key to good goal setting is adjusting and modifying what action steps you're taking, because if you're not on track, what do you need to change now, rather than at the end realizing you did not reach the goal or didn't reach it as effectively as you should have. The other part of the two biggest district improvement goals, and again I want to stress, this is not the only work we're doing, but it's representing a big chunk of our work. The implementation of the new educator system that we're talking about, not only for myself but for the principals and teachers, is huge. We were an early adopter district, and we are very fortunate to have been that because we got ahead of the game. But we are realizing in the midst of this 5-cycle process how much work, time, and energy it is taking to do this well. And it's taking longer, am I right, than we anticipated, simply because we want to do it right. And it's the first time we're doing it. Our teachers are doing it for the first time, our principals are, and obviously myself. So my goal is to not only make sure there's a smooth implementation, but to design the structures, the venues, the processes we need to do, and to make sure the communication is clear. I'm working with Attleboro on re-energizing our, what used to be a work group when we were an early adopter, became a negotiating group, and now it will be an implementation group. Because there are areas that we need to work on together, and then when we get to negotiations and have to renegotiate some things, of course the school committee will be involved. But it's very important to have that working group to hear issues and concerns to ensure a smooth implementation. And the budget will present some significant challenges. It presents it every year. And overseeing it, managing it, and monitoring it is a key part of how we get the resources to be able to reach these goals. And that will be another, as we say, big picture district goal. And obviously the work that goes into that in terms of on a monthly basis, weekly basis, and working with Mr. Rose on that to make sure it happens. So the through line that we are talking about really goes from the superintendent goals to the administrative goals to the teacher goals and vice versa. Each, right now, I am in the midst of reviewing with principals their self-assessment and the goals that they're proposing in their student learning, in their professional practice, and in their other type of goals, as well as these will be reflected in the whole school improvement plans that will shortly be coming before you. I believe in November we have the high school, and then in December we have both the middle and the elementary schools, as we've done in the past. I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
No, you go ahead. Sure. I'm sure.
I guess mine's more of a comment, really. I just obviously outlined in this document the superintendent's goals and for the district itself. It's a very ambitious document. I think it seems as though the state has imposed high expectations on every district, and I think that with good reason, obviously. So I mainly just wanted to thank the superintendent and Mr. Sawyer for their presentations and for outlining a presentation that I think really speaks to the community's ambition to be a top-tier school district. And you spoke about the amount of time that you'll be spending with the administrative team, and thanks to the choices that you've made, I'm sure that will be a productive period, and just wish everyone well as this program continues to be implemented. And thank you to the teachers, certainly, for the patience and cooperation that they've shown throughout the process.
I appreciate your recognizing that setting goals there are some districts, not Attleboro, where you might set the goals very low, because then you're assured of reaching them. But we've never set them low in Attleboro. We stretch ourselves, we aim high, and we will get to that top tier. So I appreciate you recognizing that the goals are ambitious. But at the same time, that's what we want for our children. We want them to stretch, we want for our teachers, and we obviously want it for ourselves.
Dr. Durkin, I have two questions. The race to the top. I mean,
Yes.
you say it a lot. I
Yes.
don't think everybody understands it a lot. Can you, I mean, it provides significant funding for this district, obviously, and for a lot of districts.
With a lot of work.
Right, but when did it start, and what's the timeline, and when is the potential of this grant source not going to be there?
Address that, Mr. Sawyer, because I think you're.
We're in the second year of full implementation of the grant, and where it's coming from is that it was part of the stimulus plan that the president enacted with Congress back in what would it have been, 2010, 2009, and to rather than just give out money sort of uniformly, they wanted a set of reforms, and they put this competitive grant together to get states to enact these reforms. So if you wanted to get the money, you had to do what the feds wanted you to do. And so Massachusetts was one of the states that applied for and received the Race to the Top grant, and Attleboro was one of the communities that applied and was granted that. So the money is for specific projects within it, but it funds a lot of, I mean, what we try really hard to do is to use the money to do things we're going to be doing anyways that are aligned with what the state wants us to do. So for example, teacher evaluation is something we have always taken very seriously here. We're ahead of the curve by several years with the last time we reformed the evaluation system, and bringing this one into line wasn't as much of a project for us as it has been for much of the Commonwealth. So using the funds to help enact those new regulations was a good use of those funds, and something that's part of what we're already doing. But it's we spend well, there's two different grants under our Triple T. That's the other thing that I'm trying to keep my head straight. We have one special project that we did through a work group called WGEE. Do you know what that stands for? A work group
Work group for Educator Excellence.
And that grant was, I just looked at that.
Teacher 21.
Yeah, the Teacher 21 grant. That one I just looked at. That one's almost $500,000 over 4 years. And the one that we're usually talking about this year, we're spending about $250,000 on that grant. And next year is the final year of that grant.
If I may, all these educator evaluations are mandated and required regardless if you're getting Race to the Top funding or not. There are several districts, I'm sure you know, that are not Race to the Top districts. They have till next year to implement. However, the State Department has said, and I've said to my colleagues in those districts, you better start now. Because if you're waiting till the last year to get it done. So Attleboro, I think, was wise in its decision to go for it and use it for, as Mr. Sawyer said, for things we need to do and to help us launch this. As I just want to repeat, and I'm being very candid here, we did not anticipate the amount of effort and time this is taking, and we are ahead of the curve because our old evaluation system was somewhat mirrored with the new system. So, we can't say enough about how important it is to spend the time and do it right. And also to allay anxieties and fears, because any system that's new for 400 educators is going to take its time, and we're all learning together. So I think we're doing well, but at the same time, we're realizing this is all-consuming.
I'm just glad you made that point, because I think some people misunderstand the Race to the Top. They're like, if you were not in it, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. All it does is actually
think you have more worries.
accelerate the process
Right.
to the school. So that's something that's important for a lot of people to know. It's not tying our hands on anything, it's just making it proactive. So thank you much for that. And the last one is it's probably not so much tied to educators' goals, but when you said student access to curriculum,
Yes.
Do we feel as a district that the upgrades to the website, I mean, I've heard questions, and I'm sure everybody in this committee has, about when the kids try to go on for certain homework, certain teachers do not have access to put their homework assignments on it. Do you think the upgrade to the website is going to solve some of these logistical problems that they're having?
You're talking about school websites,
Yes.
where families can access.
Yes.
I would need to have a discussion with the leadership team. If I could venture to guess, we are having many challenges. And if I'm correct, we do need to be able to help our families and our kids access it better. I don't have an answer for that. And I'm going to venture that a district this size needs a webmaster. Someone who is dedicated, and I'm not trying to promote, given the FY14 budget, but someone who's dedicated to upgrading not only the district website, but also to help with the school websites. It's very challenging to do that as an extra. And I think we try to circumvent issues that happen, but our technology department is very short-staffed. That's not an excuse, it's just an explanation. And we have been able, with the help of support, upgrade our infrastructure and the switches and all the things that are needed, but we clearly need to think about, when we talk about budget, that would be something that would be a priority that we need to look at to help us advance. Maybe you could add something to that on the website work. I mean, I know the parent portal is going to be launched, am I right, Mr. Runey? Which will be with the high school, and Mr. Runey was able to get some information from other districts, and we're hoping families will be able to get more of that, but we have a ways to go, and hopefully as we go through it, we're doing it better than we have been.
Yeah, we are hopeful that this new transfer over to a hosted website will be a big improvement. But as Dr. Durkin says, there's a lot that goes into making that work the way it really should, and this is just a step in that direction.
I mean, I think we can all realize that funding only goes so far, we can only do so much, but what a valuable asset it is to actually be able to go onto the school website and download the homework assignments, in my case,
sure.
and I'm sure in many others. That's all, I'm not trying to put anybody in the gun, just asking the question.
No.
Brenda, did you have something?
Yes, I know that, was it 2 years, it's been at least, 2 years since that we have the new Aspen, when we changed over from Rediker to Aspen.
We're in our second year.
Yes.
Second year, right?
Yep.
And I remember when that was brought forward to the committee and that was approved, I'm just a little surprised that we're having so many problems, because everything was all laid out and designed that whether it was the principals or the secretaries, and there was a whole list of they're going to be trained, this, that, and the other thing. We had our IT people, and so it's just to me it's just kind of concerning that 2 years ago it was brought to us that this switch would be the best thing. And I know there's glitches and everything, but we're really having a problem trying to lift this website up, and it's just really concerning, because 2 years ago they had, everything was brought to the committee as, nope, it's this. We had our IT people, and then we're short with IT and all that. So it's just kind of, concerning when
Sure.
in the lack of communication we have through the website with the parents, because I've been on too, trying to find things and what's up, and so I don't know, it just kind of.
Yeah, last year a lot of the training was spent on just the basics of how to access and navigate and do basic functions in Aspen. There's a lot that's possible in Aspen that we're not making full utilization of, and we need to continue to add additional training so that teachers can make more use of what's in there. One of the features that I think you're referring to is, the teachers can have their own pages, and in those pages they can post all kinds of assignments and handouts and things like that for students and families. For one, I think we could do a better job of training teachers so that they know so that everyone knows how to do that. Because right now, I think the people that are doing it are the people who are the most comfortable with technology in the first place,
Right.
whereas other people are kind of waiting to get better training before they do that. But there's another aspect when you talk about how they couldn't access something at school. What that sounds like to me is that there's another part of the whole problem, which is that in terms of infrastructure,
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
the school networks don't function the way they need to, and a whole school can be without network access for several hours or even an entire day or two while that gets fixed.
But didn't we update though? We ended up getting a bigger server I recall
I believe
when
there
we
have been
went to
upgrades,
this.
but we're still not at.
We're struggling.
At the, yeah, that's a good word. We are struggling with our bandwidth. You know, we don't have the capacity and the support to maintain as much of the network as we need to on a regular basis. So part of the problem is that we have all these web-based applications that we're dependent on, but sometimes people can't get to the web because the network fails us. So that's another aspect of the problem that really doesn't have anything to do with Aspen.
And you saying the network fails you, I'm just kind of surprised because that was something when we approved this previously that we were getting a better network. It was going to be able to handle all of this. So it just now you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
well,
just kind of concerning. That's all. I would just wanted to know because, you know, this was a big thing, switching over from Retica to Aspen and how much it was going to bring, which I believe there's probably so much more you can do with Aspen, maybe with Retica. But they were changing the server, they were upgrading, we had our IT people, so that kind of concerns me that we did that, we spent the money to do that, we have systems that we can't even operate, and we have, whether we're short on IT in our building, that we can't even in-house it. So it's just, you know what I mean?
I think
guess it was kinda-
those improvements that were promised were made. As far as I know, there have been upgrades to the network. I mean, Jonathan would have to really speak to that. I only know sort of tangentially, but
Right.
I am aware that there have been improvements, and things are better than they were 2 years ago. The problem is we're in a constant state of catch-up. It's not.
I guess I'm confused of why. Like you know what I mean? I guess
Yeah.
why are we in this mode of either catch up or why is it up and going? That I guess that's what I'm looking at. Because every time it seems like you turn a corner, we always have a problem with our website, and it's like, well, 2 years ago it wasn't. You know what I mean? It was this. We were going to do it in house and this, and now, you know, we're always backdoor and things aren't working. And some teachers, like you said, they put grades on the computer. Some don't. So I was just But I know we're working on it. But I'm just, you know, it's just kind of. You know, concerns me when just.
What
you know,
I
but
didn't
that's-
want to do was open up Pandora's box, which obviously it is.
No. No, but it's nice to know what we need.
Well,
Like,
no,
if-
but I'd
if
like to
we-
stick with the educated goals. I mean, I agree with you,
Yeah,
100%,
like I
don't get me
just-
wrong. But I think this is something that Dr. Durkin should probably try to get on the agenda late November, December, before we stop setting the budget for 2014. See how the new website works, if it does bring improvement. And then, you know, it's all over funding, we all know that. So I just don't want that to run into that, so.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. I could not. But again, I'll work with Dr. Durkin on that.
Yes.
We'll have
Oh,
something
good.
on the agenda
I'll just
coming up
mention
in
it to Mr.
late
Rose.
November or December,
Good.
on IT directly, okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Dave?
I think my question is a quick one, because it seems though some of these issues seem to be sort of small picture and some are big pictures. Like, we've got some websites that need to work better and some applications we need implemented more effectively and more greater exposure to students and families. The big picture, though, I mean, as Mr. Sawyer, I think, said, we're constantly catching up because we're not where we want to be from a technology standpoint. And I think that is probably true both from an academic and an operational standpoint. And it's also probably true for the vast majority of public school districts, that there's so much opportunity out there for the implementation of new technology that it's just something that sort of always has to be a goal and that we have to move toward. And my question, I guess, is am I correct in saying we have a working group that is assembled that's sort of constantly looking at the school's technology goals?
Yes.
And that group continues to meet, I assume, and look at these.
Yes, and we have made progress, and I
No, I
think an
know, and I don't
important
mean to
part of
suggest
this
we
is
haven't.
noting what we are now doing. For example, I know in the media center at the high school, it's all Wi-Fi, am I correct? And the new computers there. I mean, I'm not trying to look at the glass half empty, but
No, I
also
know.
half full. So, but we're not moving fast enough.
Yep.
I would love to see that in 8 schools, you
Yep.
know, and have new,
9.
brand new labs in, you know,
Or
in
8
all
others.
9. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
well, the other 8, you know.
Who are you picking out?
No, but, you know, and that's always a challenge. How do we help that website at the elementary school, which is so important for families to access, and also make sure that the scheduling and all the data at the high school is correct when we, you know, land that. So we are struggling with those goals, but I think if, I just said to Mr. Rose, we'll have a technology update and discuss that, and, you know, we can bring out those goals again and,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
revisit.
I think the issue is it's so all-encompassing. I mean, you think of like, it's, in the old days, technology in a school building was that we had a computer lab. And you went in and there were like 8 Macs and, you know, go, you know, have at it if you happen to have computer class. You know, now we're talking about almost every single piece of the educational experience. And so I think in that sense, it makes sense as to why we are constantly needing to catch up. But I think it's important that we have to identify that as something we constantly need to catch up on.
Good point. Yeah, that's probably why the tech group should be here, that support group, when we have it on the agenda.
Yep.
Even though I do feel that we have to have what you would call the essentials,
Yep.
and then, or basics, and then a wish list.
Right.
Obviously, nobody can keep up in technology. The phone you bought a month ago does not, the phone I bought today is better than Apple. So I understand what you're saying, but, again, we'll put that on the agenda some other time. I don't want to get too far off the subject on that one. Any other questions about the educator goals?
Mr. Chairman.
Chris?
I just have half a comment and half a question. Sort of piggybacking on what everybody else has said. I've seen evaluation systems put into place, and I know it's an extremely difficult process to get the buy-in of the sort of frontline employee. Do we have any sense of how that's following through with the teachers and even the principal level, and the other administrators? Is it?
Well,
Does everybody get it? I guess is sort of what I'm asking.
yeah, I think that's a fair question, and in fact, I was asked at a superintendent's meeting, did we learn any lessons, and what helped us get to a successful negotiation in June, of which we were in the minority, and there are still districts struggling for that, and I can't imagine starting the school year if we had not had negotiated. That would have been very, very challenging, considering
Chicago.
it's supposed to be implemented. One of the things that I think we've done well here is we've brought teachers in early. So when we were thinking of becoming an early adopter, we had discussions not only with the union, but with teachers in each school. So that became a groundswell. And the view being, we rather be part of creating it rather than being told what to do. And I do have to say, the State Department worked with those early adopters, and we did have a voice. So that helped. And then that became morphed into a negotiating group. The districts that are starting with, okay, we've got to negotiate this without any of that pre-work are really struggling. So I'm very grateful to not only the AEA, but all the teachers who gave us input, and we pulled a lot of people in and had meetings at schools to say, what do you think, and how can we manage this? So I think that's ongoing, and we still have what we call just-in-time meetings. We're going to meet at 2:30 and talk about the goal setting. We're trying to pair people up and buddy up. The administrators have buddies to look at each other's goals, to look at the goals they receive from their teachers and help give growth-producing feedback. Last week, we spent a good part of our leadership team meeting on looking at feedback that the principals gave, and without names, and kind of said, gee, this one looks good, gee, we should add this, and we all learned from it. So part of the issue with the evaluation system that I think the state is paying attention to is making sure the evaluators, meaning the principals, are calibrating and consistent. It shouldn't be that if I'm at XYZ school, I'm coasting, but if I have so-and-so as an evaluator, oh boy, I'm going to really have it tough. And I do have to say, Adeline B. and I just met last week, and we talked about some of the inconsistencies, how we're working that out. But that's really important, that the system works, that everybody is kind of operating on the same vein, that we're looking at the same things, and so I would say that's important in terms of the buy-in and a level of trust. And also, we have certain timelines. I know I'm struggling with keeping up with feedback from my administrators. And we told teachers, look, if we don't make that direct date, if you need a few more days, it's okay. I'd rather you give me something quality than rush around saying I'd get these goals in by Monday. And I think people are listening to that and hearing that, so that it is sort of a joint effort here. And we're not playing gotcha.
Right.
And you have to prove that by your actions rather than just by your words.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Thank you.
Bill?
Not to get back into your Pandora's box, but it just listening to some of the concerns about the school websites and the rest of it. There's a lot of talented people within the city of Attleboro, and if any of them were willing to help, do some of this design or hosting or fix some of the network, or not so much in the network, but the websites. I know people that have designed their own websites and the rest of it. Is there someone that they could contact in the school if they wanted to volunteer and help some of the schools get their websites kind of more the way they want to, or?
Yes.
I mean, I know we're not gonna pay anybody, to do it,
pro bono
but
type
you know
of
what?
thing, yeah.
There's a lot of retirees that have got a
Yeah,
lot
if
of
you wanna
knowledge
have
in a
them
lot of
call
this
Tom,
stuff.
Yeah,
Get in touch with Tom Rose at
yes,
central
because
office.
Tom supervises the IT department and knows exactly far better than I do the struggles and strains, but that would be very
I mean,
helpful.
there's a lot of people that
Sure,
have a lot of that knowledge
Yes.
that could be right next door to us, and if they're willing to help,
yep,
that'd be great.
It's a great idea.
thank you.
Good point, Bill. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dr. Durkin.
Thank you.
Moving on to our transportation update. Tom Rose, our business manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to say this evening I have wonderful news. I believe that every single individual who put their name on a wait list will be contacted before the end of the week and will be assigned a bus. Currently, we have 196 individuals on a wait list. Specifically, we have 85 individuals who fall within the range, meaning they live between a half mile and a mile and a half if they're grade 1 through 4, or they live between a mile and a half to 2 miles if they're grades 5 through 12. We also have another approximately 111 students who fall under that. They're considered walkers. Late this afternoon, I received from Bloom Transportation head count sheets. And after reviewing the head count sheets this afternoon, there's very little question that we're going to have space across the board to absorb most, if not every single individual. Let me just give you some of the highlights. Within the high, and there are two numbers to keep in mind. Within high school, we're looking at around 50 to 55 students per bus. But everywhere else, specifically for the middle schools and the elementary schools, the legal limit is 73 students. Now, we don't really want to put 73 students there, but if we have to, we can. Within the high school, the average count per bus is 31 students. Across the three middle schools, the average count is 44, 42, and 42. So the bottom line is, for each of those middle schools, we have the capacity of adding on approximately 25 students. The reality is, we don't have 75 students who are on the wait list for just the middle schools. We have a total of 196 throughout the entire district. Across the 5 elementary schools, our average count is 52, 40, 40, 27, and 36. So it's going to range from school to school. But the bottom line is, I think that by the end of the week, every single parent that has been that has put their name on a wait list, they'll be contacted. And the way the process is going to go is very simple. We're going to contact the individuals through our transportation office. They will be notified, they being the parents, will be notified, this is going to be a bus, and this is going to be a bus stop. Letters are all set to go. We're then going to ask the parents, please send in your payment within approximately a 2-week time frame. And the bus transportation will begin probably effective Monday the 22nd of October, but that will be included in the letter. And I can't say enough about the good work that Bloom Transportation, and specifically Arlene Menard, Lisa Coelho, and Marianne Nichols, and the work that they've done with our transportation office here, Terry Edwards, Sue St. Cyr, and Terry Towers. So good news, we're moving forward. We can always tighten the operation up, to say the least, but we're moving forward, and we think that all these individuals will be placed by the end of this week. And that's a transportation update, Mr. Chair. Questions, comments on anything regarding transportation?
Tom, that's the 150 for the year. They're not prorating it, whatever, because of the first 2
Correct.
months or anything. They just wanna make
150
sure
for
that
the
everybody
entire
knows.
year. Correct.
It's 150. Okay.
Yes. A quick sidelight, if we receive all the funds from the 100 approximately, we should bring in approximately $30,000, which Lord knows we can certainly use toward our revolving fund.
And that's just with the 29 buses. Great job.
That
I
was
know we
my,
have
that was
some
my
question over
question.
here.
No, that was my question, was were we at 29 or 27? So we're at
29 buses.
That's what I thought, okay.
29 and 11, right?
11 minibuses.
Yes.
Okay.
Brenda?
Yes. Tom, do you have an update about the situation that happened on Friday regarding
Yes.
the buses?
Yes,
If you
I
could
sure do. In
please
fact-
update, because I had a swarm of phone calls,
Yes.
emails, texts, what's going on, so I don't know if anybody else did. Did
You know, I
anybody?
hate it when school committee members get contacted at home. And I'm sure you
No,
do.
that's
as-
okay, that's my job.
I'm sure
I
you do as
reached
well.
out to you and,
In fact, one of the things I did before I came in was I sent out an email. In fact, if you wouldn't mind, let me just read this email. It was addressed to the chairman and to Mrs. Furtado because they had asked questions. But now that I'm reading it aloud, it's addressed to everybody. It's in regard to an accident that occurred on Friday on Lindsay Street. And the question was, is there anything we can do to try to get the communication out a little bit better? Because in certain cases, we couldn't get the buses through Lindsay Street. And I'm just going to read to you my printout. Mike and Brenda, regarding the bus issue from Friday morning, Bloom Transportation received a call at 6:35 a.m. from the Attleboro Police Department, which informed Bloom Transportation that Lindsay Street was closed from 457 Lindsay to Sergeant Circle due to an automobile accident and hanging wires. The driver for bus A1 went around to the North Attleboro end of Lindsay Street and covered as much of the route as he could. I've asked that the Attleboro Police Department, sent the email earlier today, to notify me, along with Terry Edwards, Terry Tower, Sue St. Cyr, via email, all future accident notifications which affect school bus transportation. The superintendent's office notified the principals at 7:33. School committee members were notified at 7:35. The answer to your question, Mike, is no. No, there really was not sufficient time to notify the middle school's parents due to the fact that the middle school day begins at 7:50. Please let me know if you have questions or comments. So the wrinkle is this. We get notified. As soon as we get notified, we try to let the principals know as quickly as we possibly can. But in certain cases, based on when the schools are going to begin, it's very difficult to get the notification out to a group of parents. There are two other things I want to mention, and then I'll stop talking. I'll let you talk. The first thing I want to mention is these routes are still being, not the routes, the lists are still being established. Before the end of the week, we're going to have 196 more people added on across 29 bus lists. So it's not like the bus lists are intact yet. They're not, but by the end of the month they will be. And then after that, it should be kind of a onesie-twosie situation where individuals come in and then individuals leave, and we keep the bus list identified. But I guess the message I'm trying to convey is this. I have not given the principals the ability yet to say, these are all the individuals you have on bus 1, bus 2, going the way through bus 29. Now go at it. Go ahead and develop your Connect Ed messages based on the individual bus routes if you want. That hasn't been done yet because the routes are still in flux. But by the end of the month, they will be in much better shape. But as of last Friday, they weren't. That, combined with the timing, is the reason why there were some parents who were not notified. And for those parents, I apologize for the inconvenience that you had. It's a little bit of the background. Let me stop talking. Pass it to you.
do I have a question?
Yes.
I understand what you just mentioned, but hopefully maybe even next year, I know that we're trying to, decipher and who's on what bus, but you have students on those buses that take that bus year after year after year after year. And it just concerns me that if something did happen to that bus and there is a child on that bus and that principal does not have that list, because as far as I know too, the principal sometimes goes out to the site where it happens,
Correct.
accounts for the children.
Yes.
So the majority of those kids that are on those buses, they are bus pupils, day in and day out, year after year after year. So I'm hoping maybe next year, I feel, and that's something I will bring forward, and that the principal should have those bus routes. And I know what you're saying because you're trying to tweak it.
Sure.
And you may miss one here or there, but the majority of those kids that are already on the buses
Sure.
are bus kids.
Absolutely. And Mrs. Furtado, I think I was unclear.
Okay.
Because I think I may have conveyed the message that the schools don't know
Right, that's
which
what
buses
I
the
was
kids are
getting
on.
at.
And I'm very glad you
Oh,
made
all
that
right,
comment.
okay.
That's totally incorrect.
Okay.
And so, shame on me. Since the 4th of September, there has been a tennis match going back and forth between Bloom Transportation and then the school secretary, and then Bloom and then the school secretary. And I'm happy to say, I'm the person that's in the middle. I told Bloom, send me the list for, sometimes they'll send it for just Attleboro High School. Other times they'll send it for 3 or 4 schools. And then my responsibility, either that night or early the following morning, is to then forward those lists to all the principals and all the secretaries within that particular school. I would say probably at Thatcher, I'll bet there have been at least 5, maybe 6 emails that have gone back and forth. And with each email, we're getting closer and closer. But I didn't want to convey the message that the schools aren't aware of who's on the bus. They have to be who's aware on the bus. What I meant to say was the bus lists are still in the process of being fine-tuned. And now with 196 students that are going to be at, they're going to be more fine-tuned. But I'm happy to say that Bloom has worked well with the schools, and the school secretaries cannot possibly say enough about the good work that they've done reviewing the lists and saying, no, we need to add this person, no, we need to take this person off. They've done a phenomenal job working with Bloom in trying to get the list as correct as possible.
Right.
The main source of information is the schools. Whatever the schools say, that's what we're going to go forward with as far as who is supposed to be on the bus, what stop, and what the address is. But that communication has been going back over the last 6 weeks. And frankly, it'll continue through June. The only wrinkle is, once we get through the end of October, the changes should be minimal. And that's something I know full well the school secretaries are looking forward to.
Right. And I understand what you're saying with the wrinkles and everything will be smooth. But going back to the situation that happened.
Yes.
And the bus pupils that have probably been on there for years after years after years. Now, if this was reversed,
Yes.
and they were leaving the school and we had parents waiting for their kids and they were 30 minutes or the bus never arrived, that would be the same situation if we don't get the all call out to those families saying, bus so-and-so that your child's on is going to be delayed 30, 40, 50 minutes due to whatever. So I'm just trying, only because of the swarm of emails and the concerns that I had, and where is the communication, and neighbors are saying, okay, I had to run to the high school to drop my child, but in the meantime, maybe middle school could have been intercepted, but like you said, the times didn't work out. But elementary, those elementary parents were standing there waiting for a bus, and they could have had the all call instead of neighbors saying, hey, the bus ain't coming, like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, I'm just trying to get the communication with parents with us. I just want to see where we can just close the gap, because again, we stress communication. We want people to, to know that we mean communication, and we want them to be aware of, so when something like this happens, so I just wanted to see where we can maybe just tighten it up, because even if it happens next year, but I understand about you tweaking the buses, but I don't think that has anything to do with, we know who's on those buses now, who it would have affected right now, and I just felt that an all call. They given, you have parents, they give an all call for, don't forget, the bake sale at the PTO or whatever, and then to not know about this. So I'm just concerned that I just want to, where can we bring back the communication? That's all.
Understand.
It's nobody's fault, it's just
Understand.
freaky, something happened. But I do appreciate you looking into it, and the first thing I did was, Mr. Rhodes, what had happened, because,
I'm glad that's what I
Yep.
want you to do.
Yes, and I'm glad that you looked into it, but I just feel that all call, because of the principal, it should have went out, even maybe if we reached 92% of those parents, that 8%, but I just I'm just concerned in the future to make sure that we have that connection and communication with the parents. That's all.
I'm going to make one more
Yeah.
comment, and then I
Yeah.
promise I'll stop
Yeah,
talking.
no.
We have to be careful about over-communicating. Specifically, the high school has anywhere between 22 to 25 buses that bring students every single day. Down the road, we're going to be at a point where we're going to know exactly what bus numbers are affected by this accident. And so the all-call isn't going to go to everybody.
Right.
It's only going to go to the folks that are already set up and connected.
Oh, absolutely.
Based on the bus number, based on the bus route, for this one, this one, this one. This specifically, this route, this route, this route.
Absolutely.
I regret that we're not at that point yet, but I promise you, we're gonna get there.
Right. And we knew who was on that bus, we knew what bus it affected, so I just wish it went out, but looking
Understand.
forward, I'm just trying to, because next year we'll be in the same situation, trying to put kids on the bus, trying to tweak things. But I just think that that needs to be communicated to the parents, that's all.
I agree.
But I thank you very much, you looked into it.
You're welcome.
I'm not blaming anyone, Bloom, and like you said, the school department, we're working to tweak it, but I just thought that was extremely important, that a bus did not come and there was no communication at all, that's all.
Understand.
And parents were like, you know,
Read you loud and clear.
because remember, communications with the parents, if we know and we're forewarned, everything goes a lot smoother.
Agree.
So, but thank you, Tom, for
You're
everything,
welcome.
thank you
You're
very
welcome,
much.
Russ. My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Obviously, we have no control over when situations happen, but
Yep.
like Brenda said, the only thing we do have control over is communication. Very valid reasons for why we're not able to do that at this time, and very acceptable. But I think, you know, just realize where we're coming from. When we hear from constituents, we go and tell the parties that are involved what we heard. That's
Correct.
that's how it all works, that's all.
I agree.
But thank you, Tom, great explanation, and especially with, I think that's great news for all the free for transportation. That's a
Yep.
lot of hard work, and very appreciated by, I'm sure, everybody
Yes.
on this committee. And by the parents and the runners, obviously.
Right.
Moving on to the next order of news. We have a request from the school committee action to approve the budget transfer in the amount of $5,000. Tom Rose, our businessman, is gonna give us the update.
Yes.
Before Tom touches on this, I just wanna let you know, I talked to Ken and Tom about this just a little bit. We're not going to allow budget transfers to be done during full committee meetings after this. Tom realized this was a little special situation, unless it's an emergency circumstance, obviously, but they will be going through finance. Any budget transfer, unless it's an emergency, will be going through finance. That's the right protocol
Correct.
to do things. So just want to let you know, I had this discussion with Ken and Tom. We're all on the same page. So Tom, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the person sitting to my left has been wonderful and patient, and I appreciate that, Marissa. We're gonna get this transfer pushed through, thanks to school committee. Bottom line is this, we need some money in one particular account, and this particular account was not funded in the budget. We have enough money within special ed. So what we're gonna try to do, if the committee will approve, is we're gonna move money from one area to another area within special ed, so that we can get money in the account and we can get some bills paid. The reason why it's going before the school committee is because, as you probably know, the first two digits are they're the base. If at any time we're gonna move money within a particular cost center, and the two digits at the beginning of the account are not the same, no one can move any money until the school committee approves it, but before the school committee approves it, they'll go to the finance committee. In this particular case, I'm doing an end around and going directly to the school committee first, because we're trying to get some bills paid. But the bottom line is, it's tied to the account called the interpreter non-professional salary account. In a way, this is kind of a blessing in disguise, because this is a good thread for the budget for FY14. I promise you, when we develop the budget for FY14 and you see it, if there isn't at least $5,000 in that account, Marissa's gonna have my head, as well she should. So we'll make sure there's at least money in that account. Unfortunately, we don't have it now, and that's why I'm asking the school committee to make the approval.
Thank you, Tom. Ken, you want to make the motion before we open it up for discussion?
Sure. I make a motion to transfer $5,000 from the speech PT OT professional salary account to the interpreter / non-professional salary account.
Second. Discussion. Barbara.
I just have a question. The account that you're moving the funds out of.
Yes.
Now, that amount has been set for the year. Are we gonna end up having a shortage in that account, and then at the end of the year having to move from another account to cover that because we did this transfer?
Barbara, the answer is, I don't think so. It's, but I don't wanna make it sound, I said before that we have enough money within special ed. Ideally, what Marissa would have preferred that I say is, sure, Marissa, no problem, within central office, we have this account right here, plenty of money, we'll take the $5,000 from here. We don't have those accounts in the central office, and we know that this is a tight year, it's a tight budget. But Marissa is a very, very good manager, and she works with some very good people, and we're picking an account where I think that throughout the fiscal year, I think we'll be able to manage this $5,000 variance, and we'll be okay. And that's why this particular account has been picked.
Okay, because I'm just concerned that we stay in compliance with all the IEPs, and that because we don't have enough funding in here to pay for the PT person, OT, or speech, that we're out of compliance because some child's not getting their speech therapy. Or
We would need to come back to you
Right.
and let you know that.
Mhm.
We're not gonna have children not served because, you know, the money hasn't been moved, so.
Right.
If I could add on one other comment, Marissa was the individual who was good enough to say, Tom, this is the account to use. Go ahead and take the money from this account. So in Marissa's best judgment, this is an account that we think that we can use, and we're gonna move forward, we'll manage the accounts. And when I say we, I'm really giving off, and Marissa's the one that's doing a great job of managing the accounts within special ed. We'll manage the accounts and we'll be okay throughout the fiscal year. And if we have individuals who aren't IEPs, we'll make darn sure they get the services that they need.
Do we still have schools that are sharing like the same OT between like the elementary schools? I know that has been an issue in the past, that there was sharing going on and there was some concerns that there weren't enough time spent in each individual building. Do we still have an issue with that sharing going on where?
We do have staff that are shared amongst buildings,
Mhm.
but the staff are broken up based upon student needs, and there's movement, and it's built right into the contract that I have to evaluate that twice a year to make sure that all of the students' needs are being met and shift staff appropriately.
Very good, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any more discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes, Mr. Rose.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a request for school committee action to award the paving contract to the Attleboro High School parking lot to the lowest bidder. Tom Rose, our business manager, again, is going to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Special thanks to Jason Parento and also to Rayanne Alves for all the hard work they did on this particular proposal. Very good proposal, very, very happy to get 6 quotes in. Bottom line is we would like to go with the lowest bidder, and that lowest bidder is Classic Seal Coat Incorporated. They are ready to go. Jason has been in touch with them. They haven't done anything yet because they need your approval. But if you approve, the first thing I do tomorrow morning will be to call Classic Seal Coat. They believe they can get the work done over a 2-weekend period. It'll be done by the end of October. We have 2 away games coming up. In fact, some of the work, as far as the patching, they may very well start before the weekend if we give them the green light tonight through the school committee's approval. The references were checked; they were outstanding, outstanding references from all 3, and the low bidder. And we would like my request is the school committee approve Classic Seal so that we can get the work done.
If I may, not that I'm so known on the football schedule, but I do know we have a home game October 26th, King Philip. So, not that I want to dissuade what you said, and that shouldn't matter, but we will have, we will need the.
Thank you. We'll work around that.
Yep.
Thank you.
What is the lead time?
Ken, why don't you put the motion up, and we'll get into discussion.
Sure. I make a motion to award the paving contract for Attleboro High School parking lot to the lowest bidder, Classic Seal Coat, in the amount of $22,900.
Second.
Discussion. Dave?
Mr. Rose, I know you talked about the football schedule, and in some of those meetings, we talked about how there could be any number of logistical challenges due to scheduling. We're gonna do everything we can to avoid all conflicts, football and otherwise, right?
The answer is yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yes.
Bill?
Mr. Chairman, just so that we're all on the same page, you keep calling it a paving contract. It's really a seal coating and striping. And there's some patching, but we're not, I don't want people to think that we're repaving the entire parking lot.
No, we are not.
So,
It'd be a heck of a bargain if we were, though.
it would be a
Sure
great
would
deal,
be.
yeah. But
Yes.
I think one of the concerns that we had was making sure that we have either maintenance or security, or even the Attleboro police make sure once they have this seal coated before the lining that it's really watched over. We'll actually be providing a beautiful black canvas for some inspiring graffiti artist if we don't have somebody looking over that. So that's just one thing I want to make sure we touch up on time. Let's have a little bit of oversight while that thing's
Absolutely.
before the lines get on there.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope you just give somebody a good idea.
Yeah, right?
Did I give somebody?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
That was
but
not
now-
my intent. Barbara?
Is there any like guarantee, or warranty how long this should last? After they provide this service, do they say, oh, it's guaranteed for 5 years, 10 years before they crack again, or?
I'll have to check on the amount of time. I know that one of the items that's provided is a bid bond, which in more words or less is our insurance policy that the work that they do is good work. And if it's not good work, frankly, we tap into that insurance bond and we keep the money. But I will check and then get back with you, Mrs. Craw, in regard to the length of time that this work will cover. Because I'm not sure what that time frame is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think by the specifications that were in the bid packet, that it's whatever the federal or state guideline that was used in that bid packet, actually have a life expectancy of whatever was determined, so Tom can find that out, but I know that is in there as part of that.
I just hate to see it say, okay, 1 year, and then we're doing it again next year, you know?
Oh,
it's just
absolutely. Absolutely. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, moving on to personnel report. Dave Sawyer, Superintendent.
I have 2 appointments for you this evening. The first is Weston Ponalfino. He is a sign language teacher at the high school, and Michael Saltzman, an English teacher at the high school. That concludes the personnel report.
Okay, time for committee reports. Finance, Facilities, Procurement Subcommittee, Ken Parent.
We have 2 tonight, 2 warrants. First one dated October 3rd, 2012, in the amount of $236,466.08, of which appropriation is $205,015.49. Special funds $35,502.10. Federal state grants $12,240.98, and revolving funds of $23,707.51. Second one dated October 10th, 2012, in the amount of $351,250.96, of which $298,045.96 is appropriations, $997.46, special funds, federal and state grants of $5,500, and covered state funds of $636.70, and revolving funds of $46,073.38. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 24th, 2012. And that, Mr. Chair, concludes our business.
Thank you, Ken. We're on the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting will be tomorrow here at 178 E. We will be starting at 6:30. We're talking about the specials rotation at Coelho and AP courses at the high school. Concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. We're on the Policy Subcommittee, Ms. Brenda Vitale.
Yes, we had God, when was the last meeting? On September 17th. I have the minutes to be approved for the September 17th Policy Subcommittee meeting. Do I have a motion?
Didn't we do those last time?
No.
No? I'm
No,
sorry.
I wasn't
Okay.
here and the changes weren't made.
Okay, go right ahead.
So, do I have a motion? I need a motion.
Make
Anybody
a
want
motion to
approve them?
to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's all right. Any questions, concerns for the policy subcommittee? Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none. Thank you, that passes. We also had a policy file, CBD, Superintendent's Contract, that was tabled for 2 weeks. I didn't hear any feedback, so Judy, this is all set, and it was approved last meeting. And our next meeting will be held on Monday, October 22nd at 7 PM in this room. Thank you, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. At this time, the committee's going to take a 5-minute recess.
Use the name.
Yeah, he told me that we're doing all of them. elementary.
I didn't, I'm trying to think.
I wanted to, Brennan was done. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
To send it.
We are going back in session. Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to update the committee on the superintendent's search proposal and some of the things that have been done since the last time we met. I've ran it by Ed Lennox, our attorney, about how this whole process should be handled. And the best way to handle anything moving forward should be a full committee vote, especially when we're talking funding or uses of buildings. So I think the first thing we have on our agenda, just to talk about, everybody has had the survey. Vincent, was delivered in your packets on Friday. So we're looking to do a couple things with this survey. We're looking to first approve the survey in its draft form. Second of all, like it would be on the second page, by essence of voting on that, we're voting on making sure that these buildings are available at their specific times to have the focus groups done. So that, and the third part of that would be, we will have to vote on the potential funding source for that survey. Okay? So just trying to get everybody online with that. And I'm going to switch over to Dave for a minute, because Dave did do a lot of work on the survey, so you might have some questions. We do have a PowerPoint presentation if everybody has not been able to review it enough or has very specific questions. I think you might be able to go to a certain slide to get that answered. So Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of points really quick. First, from a logistical standpoint, thanks. From a logistical standpoint, with regard to the building schedules, we have conferred with each principal to confirm the availability of the space. Obviously, it's a very complex schedule because it obviously involves 9 school buildings, and the high school we've broken up into 2 staff focus groups just because of the size. We're doing our best, obviously, to promote participation within each building community. That was one of the goals of the process, obviously, is to incorporate as much public engagement as possible. The response so far, I would say, has been positive. I know some of you have been present in some PTO meetings where it's been discussed, and I think people are generally enthusiastic about the process and having their voice heard with regard to this important project. With regard to this family and community survey, the family and community survey, which looks like this for anyone who hasn't seen a copy of it, which is everyone except for the 9 of us, essentially walks through the different areas that are identified by the State Department of Education with regard to superintendent objectives. If you were to look at the superintendent evaluation rubric, you would see that there are 4 sort of big picture goals that they have for a chief educational officer are instructional leadership, speaking obviously to academic and scholastic achievement, management and operations, obviously important for the leader of any organization this size, family and community engagement, obviously an important objective for everyone involved in the school district, and then professional culture, obviously as the head of a very large staff, an important component. So each question in the family and community survey is meant to speak to one of those specific areas, and gives family community members and anyone else that wants to fill it out the opportunity to do that. From a logistical standpoint, we've spoken a few times tonight about how the school district website is relaunching in the next few weeks. For that reason, the hard copy version of the survey will be available before the electronic version. So parents will receive a home via their child's backpack, a hard copy version of the survey, and there will be an electronic version available hopefully later in the month, at the latest early November. So families can participate whichever way is more convenient for them. And obviously for us, our hope is just that they do participate one way or the other. And then also the skeleton of the model of the survey is based off of our consultations with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees as well. And so as the chairman said, our determination is with regard to appropriating the funding to have the survey copied, stuffed, and so on and so forth. And the one variation between the survey that the school committee has reviewed and what families will receive is that it will be front and back, just to save money on the copies. So.
I guess I would make a motion to accept the survey as presented with the attached schedule.
Okay, first I want to work on the focus group one, Bill.
Sure.
There's a little less involved, so you can, if you want to bring that motion forward to
Okay.
accept the focus group
Make a motion to
timeline.
bring forward the focus group timeline.
Second. Okay, discussion. Dave?
I would just add that one of the questions that was asked, has been asked, is how we'll be communicating the timeline and schedule. And I think the answer to that question, or pretty much any question with regard to communication, is it will be all of the above. So there will be Connect Ed messages to promote participation by families in each building as we get closer to each date in the building. It will be in newsletters. It will be on school websites, and particularly once the school website is relaunched. And any other means that we can find, obviously reminding people at our meetings about the upcoming dates. Each one is set in the evening, either at 6:30 p.m. or 7 p.m. That's based on the principal's discretion as to when that community generally engages in evening activity. You know, as I said, we'll do everything we can to get the word out so that everyone knows that they're welcome to participate, and we hope that they do. There are some general public focus groups toward the end of the process. That's sort of a catch-all. If you miss your building's community, you can go to a general public one. If you have another son or daughter in a different school, you obviously can go to that one, but that's the point.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just gonna go back just a little bit when Dave talked about something. Yeah, these are classified documents that only the school committee has received. Only because they're all in draft form. Until we approve them or disapprove them as a committee, they are classified documents. So just want everybody on the same page for that. So again, this is what we're only on the focus groups, on the cover letter that's being sent with it, from myself, the chairperson, and the focus group dates and times and the building uses. I am going to be asking all committee members to participate in these focus groups, and obviously, I think certain committee members are gonna volunteer at their home respective schools, so I will set up some type of schedules. I'll ask people to notify me. I will set up a schedule, because I think the only thing we really have to keep in mind here, we cannot have a quorum of school committee members at any focus group. That breaks the open meeting law. So we just have to make sure that we know who's going where, so we don't break that law. So we do have a motion to accept the focus group document as presented tonight. It has been seconded. Is there any more discussion? I'm sorry, Barbara?
I just have one question about the library for the general public. Now, is the farmer's market on Saturdays done by that time?
That's on the
'Cause-
survey, though. That's not.
Oh, I thought
That's
we were
on-
sifting
okay.
this whole thing.
Oh, okay, as part of that one.
Right
Okay,
here,
okay.
right, it's on the page.
Yep.
I'm just concerned about parking and space.
Sure.
Dave?
Mr. Chairman, that is a very good question. I'm pretty confident it has adjourned for the season by that day. I'm
Okay.
almost positive.
That's it.
So the Saturday, so there are 3 general public focus groups, 2 on weekday nights. One we've made arrangements to hold at City Hall. One will be, and the last one sort of fittingly will be in this room. The third one is on a weekend. The objective just being that there are some community members who, for Monday through Friday, is just booked solid, and there's just no possible way of participating in that process. So the goal was just to get one on a weekend and on a non-school site to sort of send the message or reassert the message that we want everyone to participate. If you have a kid in the school system, if you don't have a kid in the school, if you work for the school system, if you don't work for the, we want everyone to sort of have a voice in this, and that's where the venue was chosen. But if the farmers market is not done, and I'm almost sure that it is, and by the way, it's an excellent opportunity for all community members to pick up their produce or cheese or whatever else you're interested in.
Cheese?
I've bought cheese there.
Cheese, yeah.
I was going to. They have a fine selection of the cheese, which I can be happy to talk to you about after the meeting.
Knitting stuff, candles, yes, they have everything.
But no, they do. I mean, it's a great selection, and it's next year I think it'll be in the Finberg parking lot, so that'll be great too, and Finberg Field, not the school. And yeah, so I think it's over, but I will. I'll double check on it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on it, just so everybody knows, it was a lot of work by Dave Murphy, Mr. Sawyer, the principals of all the schools. Ms. McCarthy was involved, to set up timeline where we're not interfering with any of that host school's activities, PTO meetings or whatever else they may have. And, you know, it's strictly for a focus group night, if you will, or I should say time frame. So a lot of hard work done in putting this document together. And like everything else that we have, yes, it is subject to change, you know,
Tentative
if
and
the committee
subject to change.
feels the need. So that's, everything that we do is that way. Okay, does we have any more discussion on the motion?
Just one more question.
Mhm.
I do have one. The Rotary, can I say this? Yeah, we're gonna look to this. October 30th at noontime on a Tuesday.
I'm sorry. Good.
That,
Yeah, well,
That's really
the Rotary
difficult
Club, that's when
for
they
them.
meet. That's, the Rotary Club is a bunch of, Bill, please.
It's actually
Right.
Wednesday. We talked
Oh.
about that earlier. It's gonna be Wednesday the 31st.
Halloween?
Halloween?
Gotta come dressed up.
So just changing that?
Yeah, these are all
But
business
that's the-
individuals,
yeah.
so it's a luncheon more
It's a
than
regular
a
scheduled meeting.
presentation.
Right. But do we have people to cover that? Isn't that something that we're supposed to
If it's a free
be-
luncheon, I'll cover that.
Anybody wants to come, I'll buy you lunch. How's that?
No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
Correct.
yes, I will
I'm
make
just
sure that
making
I'm
sure.
available for that one. I will
I
definitely
like
make
that.
sure.
You should. I think that's a big one that the chairman should be there
I will make
to
sure, I
speak on
will
behalf
note
of the
that.
school committee.
Absolutely.
Well, they're a big, you know,
Supporter.
support of the school.
We thank the
Yes.
Rotary
Yes.
for,
Yeah,
for opening
exactly,
up
they're
for
a
us
big-
like that.
right.
Yes, it is.
And they're big supporters of the school, so I think that would be
Okay.
good.
Any other discussion on the focus group timeline schedule? Okay. We're gonna do a roll call vote. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Furtado?
Yes.
Mr. Tyler, yes? I'm sorry, Ms. Crowe?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Zito?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Barbara.
That's all right.
Okay. Motion approves unanimously. I always forget her name sometimes. I want to call her Barbara. I'm trying to be professional and keep the roll call vote, that's all. Okay. Our next document is the actual survey, the family and community survey, and that's what, and Barbara, I apologize for injecting on your last statement, because yes, the focus group survey dates are on the back of the second page of that. So, again, it consists of a opening statement by the chairman. On the back is, and Mr. Murphy made that point, this is a front two-sided document, 4 pages long, okay? I'll let Dave talk more about the document, but just as I wrote in the email that everybody knows, the backgrounds for this document were taken out by the MASC, using them as respective questions that they've asked in the past, and then tailoring them to Attleboro's need. And I believe the Department of Education, Secondary Education, Elementary and Secondary Education, I'm sorry. So Dave, if you want to touch on a little bit more of the survey and how this all came together.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The survey is broken down into 5 categories, which are on the board here. Instructional and academic achievement, family and community engagement, school building, grounds, and infrastructure, which does, by the way, incorporate some of the technology questions that we've been discussing here tonight, and the district's need to sort of prioritize the implementation of as much technology as we can to benefit our students. Personnel and school governance, and the community's priorities for the next superintendent, which essentially gives participants the opportunity to prioritize what attributes they would like to see in the next leader of the school system. Those track along with the 4 superintendent rubric categories that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has identified for all superintendents, as well as the model questions provided to us by the School Committee Association. So if anyone has any specific questions, that's what the survey aims to get at. I think we, and it's, I haven't taken it myself, but I can't imagine this is more than a 10 to 15 minute project for anyone who's reading through it. Ranking generally 1 through 5, just like most sort of short answer surveys would be, and then opportunity for comments at the end. And just one last thing I would say, one of the great things about participating in the survey for members of the community is, if you're planning to attend a focus group, reading through these questions will it's a good way to sort of initiate that discussion. Most people don't spend a big chunk of their day thinking about what attributes they'd like to see in the next superintendent of schools. But by taking the survey, you sort of are required to think a little bit about that, and I think that will help facilitate a healthy discussion throughout the different focus groups.
I'm gonna make the motion to accept the superintendent's survey for family and community survey, as listed in front,
Second.
as presented, I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Now, as for discussion, let's just step back a little bit and give everybody a little bit of lowdown because of when we get into the funding part of it, or potential. Now, basically, like I said, it's we're trying to provide one in every student's backpack. If there is multiple children in that family, only one survey, and we're hoping that the school list will actually break that all the way down for us. So, but again, we're still talking about roughly 6,000 copies of this. The reason for such, not everybody has a computer. There's still those in Attleboro that do not. Even though we do anticipate a lot of the community actually taking an online survey, I think as Glenn Kusha told us, that's usually the preference of the day. But in keeping this, it's very important what we're doing, and they've used the word inclusive. We want to make sure we don't miss anybody because they don't have the means to get it. We want to try to get it to them any possible means that we can. So again, when we're talking one for every student in the backpacks with a Connect Ed message home saying today is the day, the survey is in the backpacks, I'll be looking out for it. So at 6,000 at a 4-page thing, you're talking 24,000 actual papers. That's a lot of paper. So in doing so, I went out and got quotes for that. First one from Pleasant Street Printing, which the school does utilize from time to time. And I got a estimate from them of $1,050. In talking with people in the school community here, they asked that maybe I should be checking with the copy center and whether or not they would be able to handle this task. Again, 24,000, that's a lot. I put that question to Mr. Rose. Mr. Rose got an answer back. So Mr. Rose, if you can just want to touch on that.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bottom line is, thanks to the good work of Joan Woodbury and the materials, I say the machines that we have here at the building, Joan feels that the job can be done for a little under $500. The primary reason why it's so low is because I asked her, I want you to charge the cost to the district. Don't charge as though we were a customer, because although we are a customer, we want to make sure we cover our costs, and that's it, which includes your costs for salaries and materials and so on. And there are two, in fact, the machines that came across the school committee's desks a few weeks ago for the lease, high copier machines, and we get charged .0012 per copy, and that's really significantly low. And that's really the primary, that's really our primary savings. And so I asked her to be as upfront as possible. And then then I asked her, after I got the information, I sent the email out to Mr. Tyler and Mr. Murphy. I then said, okay, now let's assume that we were a customer. What would you have charged? And frankly, the price was only about $150 to $200 more. And that was that is if we were like a local school, and that was charging the appropriate amount for the clicks, and there was a little bit of a difference, but not a significant amount. But the bottom line is work can get done under $500, and she felt very, very confident that work could get done. I even asked, "Are you sure you built in enough hours for your labor?" She said, "Yes, Tom, tell you the truth, I've got an extra hour in there just for padding, just in case." So she felt comfortable and confident. So that's a little bit of the background.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome, Mr.
Okay, so I think we can all agree that's a significant savings in the initial quote that we got. I think we'll talk about that in a minute. So does anybody have any problems with the survey? Any questions or concerns about the format or the questions used in the survey? No. Okay, that's pretty clear. So our motion, first one, is to accept the survey as presented tonight. That's the motion on the floor. It has been seconded. So again, a roll call vote on this one. Ms. Zito?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
Ms. Craw?
Yes.
Mr. Tyler, yes. Ms. Furtado?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on the funding part. I think we all know in the initial proposal that Dave gave, that we wanted to have these surveys out, or basically starting the process of it. The beginning date was today, October 15th, and have them available to the public to November 25th. So to stay within those guidelines, we would have to get them printed pretty soon, obviously. Now, the only problem with that being, our school committee line for advertising is in the red. Is that correct, Mr. Rose? With the memo that you gave me today, we're in a $500 deficit in our line, is that correct? Was I reading that right?
Correct, on the school committee side.
On the school committee side.
That is correct.
Okay, so what I've asked Mr. Rose to do, is what we're gonna have to be doing, moving forward with this process, is we're gonna have to move funding from out of areas in the budget into the school committee line for, specifically for superintendent search that we're putting on. I think we all know we got advertising later on down the road, that's very expensive. So I asked Mr. Rose what lines we should be using, to transfer to school committee lines, and please realize at the end of this process, if we do have anything extra over, then it'll be back to Mr. Rose to distribute that funding back to where he feels it's needed in those lines. So Tom, if you can pick up on that.
Sure, by all means, Mr. Chair. The bottom line is, my recommendation is we stay away from the school committee accounts. And the reason is because, number one, there aren't that many accounts to begin with. But the other item is, there really isn't any particular account, not anywhere in the budget, that's entitled superintendent search. So my recommendation is let's move to the system-wide area to cover the funds that'll be needed for this particular process, or the funds we'll tap into for the transfer. And my recommendation is advertising. Not to suggest that we have a stack of money in advertising, but the reality is the bulk of the work that's being done in regard to this particular task is really advertising to an extent. In FY12 on advertising, we spent a little over $15,000. We have a budget this year of approximately $26,000. Not to suggest that we're going to have a significant balance in FY13, because there are a boatload of positions that we're going to have to fill, but my recommendation is the funds that are needed for this particular search to get it started, I recommend we tap into that advertising account, and we make the transfer from there. Yes.
Okay, just hold on a second, Ken, before again. So I just want to make sure I got these numbers right. So you're saying account 534110, is that the line to 575000?
The account would be, hold up for a moment. 534110, that's the advertising services line. Correct. And that's the line that I recommend the funds be taken
And moving
from.
it down to 575000.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rose.
You're welcome.
Ken?
I guess my question is, and this may have to come to the finance committee. I thought last year, out of the school committee advertised fund, we hired, we advertised for basically 3 of you, to put it. If we used that much money for advertising this year, and here we are only in October of this year, did we not fund the budget in the first place enough?
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Perrin, you referring to the advertising budget?
Yeah, that was the school committee advertising budget was what we used to advertise for administrative positions.
Sure. Well, the answer to your question is, in the advertising budget, there's really only one advertising account. It's called advertising services, and that's system-wide. And for that particular account, we have it under the system-wide area. So far, we have spent within that particular account a total of approximately $4,000. We have an available budget of $11,123 as of today in the advertising budget. And it's, again, I don't want to make it sound like there's a golden bullet here, but my recommendation would be that's the account to tap for whatever funds we think we need for the next step to move this process forward, because not only from a standpoint that the verbiage is similar from an advertising standpoint, and then going out and trying to bring in candidates to replace Dr. Durkin, but also from a standpoint that at this particular point, we do have some money in this particular account, a little over $11,000. Again, I don't want to suggest that we're totally flush in that account. This whole process is a rob from Peter to pay Paul, but I think that account is probably a better system-wide account than any other account for the drawing of funds.
Could you just do me a favor and verify where Mr. King pulled funds from for the advertising of the assistant superintendent, the business manager, and the interim director
Sure.
of special education? Because I thought it was something related to a school committee account. You can just verify that and may shoot that to the whole finance committee. Appreciate
Sure,
that.
by all means.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Bob.
I just have a suggestion. We had a line item designated for an HR manager, which we pulled some of that out of that account. We still have some money sitting in there, which I don't know is an option to use because it was to advertise for a position, maybe a different position, but we didn't use all that money in that line item. We only approved to use so much.
About half, but yeah.
Right, about half, so we still have what? Still there, which may be something also we can use the money from if that's.
Yeah.
your choosing.
I think my only concern is, I think we want to take Tom's recommendation. He's a business manager, but, and I say that in two ways, not that I trust Tom wholeheartedly, but number two, when we get into the higher financial part of this process, and there is leftover funds, I want to make sure that Tom's really on top of this, that, so he can put them back in the places in the budget that he feels, best utilize that leftover money. So I just want to be careful about us making suggestions to him and then getting a little confusing, because the numbers are only going to get higher. These are very small numbers compared to like a cost of advertising in the Globe, which is probably around $5,000 to $7,000 each one. So I understand what you're saying, but I just want to be really careful about it. I think Tom's, what he's saying is, let's make sure we just put it in one little box too, so we know exactly what that's for here.
Right.
And not to be used for something else. Because at this time, I'm only going to request $500 to be put in, because we got a thing of like 400 and,
Correct.
yeah.
It's under $500 for the
Yeah.
bill, correct.
So, and I have I don't think the committee wants to at any time create an account and just try to throw $40,000 in there and say, well, we should be covered for the rest of the superintendent's search. That's not the way to go about it. We should be voting on everyone and just using their financial assets that we need. Go ahead, Dave.
I agree with that. I wonder if the cost that's come out of the copy center is $450-ish, $450 and change. Should we appropriate a little bit more of a buffer zone above that, just or is there any reason to think there could be some unanticipated costs such that we might want to appropriate up to $600 or $700 for the time being?
My recommendation is no. My recommendation is with each particular expense that we know, when I say we, I'm referring to the school committee, that the school committee knows full well they're going to incur for this particular process. Each particular expense should be voted on, transfers made appropriately, so that we keep track of everything. I verified with Joan that that amount is sufficient. She thinks that it's, in fact, there's a little bit of padding, and at this point, I don't think we should go down to that specific number. I think it's okay to certainly round up to the nearest 100, but I don't think we need to put in more than $500 at this particular point into the school committee account. The other quick point I want to make, which most of you probably already know, but all the expenses that are going to be tracked on this task are all going to fall under the school committee. That's why we're putting money into that school committee other account. The only wrinkle is, I think we have to tap the system-wide account to get the money into this school committee other account, because within the school committee cost center, quite frankly, and there shouldn't be, but there aren't a boatload of accounts and there's not a boatload of money. And not to suggest that system-wide is flush, but I think it's a better source of funding to get into the school committee area so that the expenses can get incurred, and then we can monitor them under the school committee cost center.
Yeah, I mean, part of the process we should be talking about is they're going to print them, they're going to collate them, and then they have to put them in batches of 30. And that will go to each classroom.
Yes.
That way, the principals never, it's not like we can go to the high school and say, here, Mr. Runey, here's 1,800 surveys, and thank you very much. You know,
I think it'd be
they
fine.
have to be batched, it's very time consuming. It's something that they require all people that are, any advertisement, or not advertisement, I should say, or any letter that's going home to children be done. So we're not trying to overburden them either. It's just important to know, I mean, that's a really good price for all the work that's gonna be done, but.
Right.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion. Is that it for discussion? I'm sorry. I wanted to make a motion that we approve to take $500 out of account 534110, advertising services, move it to account 575000, school committee, other expenses.
Second.
Discussion. Okay. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Patato?
Yes.
Mr. Tyler, yes. Ms. Crowe?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Zito? Motion passes unanimously. So that's all we have on our agenda to talk about tonight. And Dave, if you want to wrap it up and just tell us where we're all going to be trying to meet these deadlines, work
Right.
forward.
So first of all, the next update, the school committee and to the community will be at our next meeting on November 5th. By that point, surveys will have been disseminated and in many cases received back. I would like to think we'd have the electronic version of the survey available at that time. I'm not going to make that guarantee. I mean, the process is built in a little bit of flexibility such that we can avoid running up, hopefully, into any hard deadlines. But the surveys will be out, focus groups will be convening, and participation will be robust, I'm sure.
Barbara?
Once the surveys go back to the principal, are they being forwarded somehow to the whole school committee? I'm sorry, I'm not going on to all
sure.
over the.
As part of the culmination of phase 1 of the superintendent search process, the comprehensive assessment will include all of the survey information gathered. So there'll be a statistical snapshot of every question, every category, and then as part of the appendix, like the actual evidence collected will be available. So it'll be available to the public, to the school committee members, and
Well, I guess I'm more sure, like when they return, who are they sending them from the principal? They're going, who they're going to?
Logistically, it's going through the principal's office. It'll be collected, forwarded to the central administration and then to the chairman.
Okay.
That's one part that we haven't figured
Oh,
out, just
okay.
as far as a mailbox at each individual school, so they can put them in, you know what I mean? Something almost like the.
That was generally discussed with the principals that there would be this aspect of it. So they're expecting further conversations. It's not going to come as a
Who's gathering?
But more from there, like if they give them, and then they go to, and they return them here for you to collect.
Then we get to view
You've
them,
got like
because we're gonna do a
500
working
right.
committee session on what that consent document is going to be. We have to take all that information. and
Right,
make
and
a
that's
consent
what I was
document.
That's what
asking.
we're doing
That's
as
the
a
full,
committee,
the whole
correct?
committee will
The
do
whole
that as a
committee?
work.
That is
meeting.
correct.
Well,
that
my
what you-
interpretation of the whole thing is we get the survey, when it's like it is, and when it's question 1 and all the variable answers to that, and then the committee's known that 33% answered number 3 or whatever.
Right.
40% answered number 2, so.
But we have to go through each individual one, so the whole committee's gonna have to go through
I think
those
if the whole
papers,
committee
because-
wanted to go through every one of those, that would be fine. But
Well, you have to get the general consensus, how you're gonna
who's
have to
gonna
go
do
through
it?
them all
Yeah.
anyways, is what I
I
guess
can-
I'm trying to say.
Sure. There are two answers. One, the comprehensive assessment will include all of the data collected, and that will be circulated to the school committee. The timeline says early December. It may say December 1st. I mean, again, it'll be in that vicinity. The second thing is, as the chairman just indicated, the working session of the school committee that will take place at the end of phase 1 will include the draft of the comprehensive assessment, which will include all the data gathered, as well as the opportunity for the school committee to comment on, modify the comprehensive assessment, all of which leads us to the drafting of the job specification and advertisement, which is talked about in phase 2, which is the school committee-wide.
Which I understand that, but these physical surveys that come in, 500 of them,
Yep.
who's gonna go through each question, say someone put a 2 or 4, what's the average? Who's gonna be
Well,
tallying those? Who's
Dave
gonna
is
do that?
doing that part of it, and
Sounds
the
like
other
me.
one that's online will be done through what they call a
Survey.
survey.
Online will be done all.
Yeah, it
Well,
will,
know what a survey monkey is, that just gives you whatever the survey is, and then gives you a list of after that how the questions were answered.
But I think with regard to the actual survey, the data
I
collected,
mean,
the
we'll
hard
make them
copies.
available to anybody who wants them.
Yeah, they'll be
No,
available
that's
to
why
all.
I'm just wondering how as a committee we were gonna do that together, but if that's the person's designated, then someone's been designated to do it. I was trying to see our role as a committee, what we were gonna do with those surveys. But that's fine, I mean, there's
Right.
been,
I just don't know how that would work if we receive back 6,000 surveys and then online ones.
but he's gonna have to go through 6,000 individual surveys to find out someone voted 2, someone voted 3. That's a lot of surveys for him to
Yeah.
go through. That's why I was wondering if it was gonna
Well-
be 300 to you, 300 to me, and we say this was our average.
Scan them in, huh?
What's that?
If we receive them,
And you have to scan them.
can't you send them to?
But if we only get 100, but if you get
Decipher and click, I don't know.
3,000.
I can honestly tell you the.
I don't know, I'm just asking
If we talk about the IT part, okay, we sat down with Jonathan. First of all, that's why there's really nothing on the website yet. First of all, we didn't vote on anything, but even then, they just went through a major update on the website. He's got enough to handle right now, and, you know, you don't wanna put him, what the capabilities that are, Brenda, I don't know.
I know.
At
I
this
know, I'm just
stage, we
wondering
don't,
if
we
you just
don't know.
send it to
Believe me, if there's a better way than looking at them individually
That's a
like
lot.
that.
Well, no, I'm just, the paper ones, what if he gets 4,000 surveys?
Yeah,
For
that's
him to
what I
go
mean,
through
that's
and tally
impossible.
question
I mean-
one, the average.
This has to be for all of us.
Right,
You can't
I
put it
think
on one
that's what I'm
person.
trying
And,
to
and,
say.
that, and then no one,
Can't
I don't
put
think
it on.
anyone's expecting that, but I think, you know, the important piece is that the comprehensive report obviously be circulated to the school committee, approved by the school committee, and as I said, the appendix will include every piece of information that we collect, so.
Right, but before we get to that point.
And the chairman will, you know, will ultimately, they're going to the chairman, the chairman will find a way to
Yeah.
logistically administer each of this, so.
Well, that's just my
Like, I
question.
think we should look into that when we receive them, that we can send them out for survey and let them calculate and everything, and then we get the information.
Well, I don't think, you know, I wasn't comfortable putting the cart in front of the horse either.
Yeah.
because
Depends on how many.
I don't know.
We didn't approve anything yet,
Like,
and then
right,
to
do
go to the
like
next
600
logistical step of how do we collect that, I mean, there's various ways we can do it, but we wanna make sure that we're doing it in the most time-sensitive
Right,
ways,
well,
and we're
that
not
too. Well,
overburdening
that's what I'm saying.
a committee member or members.
But I just think this is something that we need to be proactive on, because we have to move, because if you're looking at the timeline, and we're looking at, you know, we're having a superintendent for July 1st, our timeline is pretty close to where we have to negotiate a contract, and hopefully we have someone in here for July 1st. I'm a little concerned about the timeline. I think we're going right down to the wire regarding, hiring a superintendent, but that's my opinion.
Right.
So I need to be, what I feel is I need to be proactive and have to put it out there. If we're getting all these surveys, seriously, I'm not gonna be sitting here going through 4,000 surveys, I'll be honest with you.
Mhm.
Because there's just no time
Right.
that you can try to
Yes.
calculate that. It's no humanly possible to do that. So
Right.
I'm just trying to put it out there, because that could be something that we engage in, and then, okay, what do we do? So that could delay our timeline, and we're already close enough, as in one superintendent coming and one going, and it's just, to me, that timeline's really, really close. And still, we have to negotiate contracts and everything.
But you're right,
So I'm
and that's what we're here
concerned.
for, to ask questions,
Exactly.
because we don't know all the
And I don't know if
Trying
any survey, I think there probably has to be some kind of company out there that you have that, you send it, let them calculate it, bing, bing, bing.
You know, I would have to
But
say the
I don't know.
majority of this process is
We might get
was
3.
going through the MASC recommendations, and their recommendations were two things. That to hold a proper superintendent search takes about 9 months.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, to shorten it any doesn't give justice for the community to participate, to longer it puts you in a lot of trouble. So we kind of brought it right down to the end as it was by really initiating the process in the end of September. And as far as the survey thing, now we do have a November 25th is the cutoff date. There'll be no surveys accepted
No,
after that. And I think, you know, going by Glenn's presentation that night to the committee was basically, the majority of these are probably gonna be done online. That's just people, they can sit at home on their computer in their pajamas and do them. They don't have to,
Which is good.
you know. So we're hoping that is the way.
Right.
But the only reason we're printing 6,000 is to make sure
You
that
have
nobody's
to.
left out.
But the program's
And
set
that's
up
not-
online to automatically tally the
Yes,
average, so
which is
that's
nice.
what
I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just being proactive, I'm just putting it out there.
if it happens, right.
Because if we
like you
happen to
said.
get all of that, and
Negotiate contract overlap, if we want
I'm
overlap for
just, you know what I
training.
mean? That's my
it's-
only
right.
thing, if
No.
we receive a lot.
Valid
and-
question. Ken, did you have something? I'm sorry, you were over there.
No, I think, yeah, it wasn't up to time.
We'll check out the logistics of all of that, just to make sure.
Just right.
No, that's the way we want to do things. Dave, you want anything more to add after concerns about that? Anybody else?
No, I mean, I think, as we're out in the community, anytime that there's an opportunity to encourage people to participate in the process, I think that's a good thing. I think this is a big moment for the school district. It's a big moment for the community, and the more voices that are heard, I think the better.
And just want to add, Mr. Sawyer, Mr. Rose, and Ms. McCarthy, thank you very much for all your help in getting this ready for tonight with the committee. It's totally appreciated. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's Elko now.
That was a base theater.